Hello. Welcome to the School of Public Policy and Administration information session on the master programs that we offer. So I'm just going to start by outlining what we're going to do through this information session today, and as well as provide you with some information. So first of all, we're going to go through the brief overviews of each of the three master programs that are offered within the School of Public Policy. We'll start with the Master of Public Policy and Administration, and I am Jennifer Stewart, the graduate supervisor for that program. Then we'll move on to the Master of Arts Sustainable Energy, where Stefan Schott, who will be the graduate supervisor starting in January 2021, will give an overview of that program. Our third program is a Master in Philanthropy and Nonprofit Leadership, and Callum Carmichael is the graduate supervisor for that. I've put up everyone's contact information on this slide, and I'll put this slide up again at the end of the three presentations. On the slide is also information for the graduate administrators of the program. So if you have questions following this session, feel free to contact the graduate supervisors. They're able to, or they will advise, give you permissions along those lines. If you have questions about rules and process, I suggest you contact the graduate administrators. Following these overviews of each of the programs, we'll take questions from the participants. I encourage you to write your questions in the chat room as we go through the presentation so that you don't forget and we don't lose them. If your question's about a specific program, you may want to put the program acronym at the beginning of your question so that we know which supervisor should answer it. So let's move on to the overview of the MPPA. So we're one of the three masters that is offered in the School of Public Policy, and we're housed in the beautiful Richcraft Hall that overlooks the that looks over the Rideau River on Carleton's campus. Who should apply for an MPPA? We are looking for applicants who have strong academic backgrounds. And by that, we mean at least a B+ average in the last 20 university level courses that you've taken. We feel that the governments, the public sector that we generally feel we're training people for require people from any discipline. So we're not looking for just political scientists. We're looking for any social science background. We're looking for engineers. We're looking for fine arts. We just want strong students. It is crucial that students demonstrate strong writing skills in their application. I encourage you to carefully proofread everything that is submitted to us. There are three prerequisites for the MPPA. These are not required for admission. We do give students conditional offers, which require them to complete the prerequisites within the first year of their program. Now, note with that said that completing the prerequisites as part of the program will result in a longer program, and your application ranking will be ranked lower than an equivalent applicant who has the prerequisites. The prerequisites are two economics courses, a first-year micro and macroeconomics, and we need a B+ average across these two courses. The third prerequisite is a second-year political science course on Canadian political institutions, or at least a second year. Some universities offer that as a third-year course. That's fine. And we also need a B+ average in that course. So the MPPA is a 7-credit program. I describe it as a 5-semester program that allows students to take 2 co-op work terms within those 5 semesters. There are 10 core courses for this program, 2 in policy analysis, 2 in public management, 2 in research methods, 2 in economics, 1 course on law and ethics, and then we like to finish the program with a capstone course that we offer once a year for all students in the winter term. Students have to also take 4 elective courses, and there's a variety of electives that are available for students. Some of these electives cross over with the other master programs we offer, so you'll want to pay attention to the description of those. But specifically for the MPPA, you might be interested in knowing we also offer a concentration in Indigenous policy and administration. We offer a specialization in data science. This is offered along with the Institute in Data Science. Our program only has 5 spots for this specialization, so it's a very competitive application process. I'm also happy to talk about concurrent graduate diplomas that Carleton University offers to master's students. So we are allowed to have some courses overlap, but it is possible to graduate then with the master as well as a graduate diploma. There's also a major research paper or a thesis option that students can explore. Students tend to be very interested in the co-op program, so I thought I'd put in one slide about that. There are up to 2 work terms available, and this is not a required part of the program. So if you're interested in completing the program very quickly, we can work with you to plan that. Or if this is the key reason you're here, we'll work with you on that as well. We can't guarantee a co-op placement, but we've had high placement rates, even in this current COVID situation. There is an application process. So if you're interested in a co-op for the summer term after your first year, you must apply by the end of the fall semester. The co-op office does conduct information sessions and some information sessions specifically for graduate students. So watch for information on those. Most of the postings, given that we're in Ottawa, are for the federal sector. The MPPA at Carleton is one program, I believe it's one of 4 in Ontario, who has access to the provincial postings. So if you're interested in Toronto, please watch for those postings. To participate in the co-op program, MPPA students must have completed or be registered in the 6 core first-year courses by the time they apply for the program, for the co-op program. If you need to take the economics prerequisites, then you're only required to have taken or be registered in 5 of the core courses. So where does an MPPA take you? Well, here's a little infographic about where our alumni have taken their careers. Being a public policy program in Ottawa, the majority, about 62% of our alumni have positions in the government. But you can see that there are other options in education, finance, and even resources, manufacturing, trades. So there are lots of options for someone who has a solid degree such as the MPPA. I just want to highlight some of our distinguished alumni that we're very proud to have a connection with. The current Chancellor of Carleton, but the former Secretary of the Treasury Board, Yaprak Baltasioglu, Callum will correct me later, is one of our graduates. I put up Syed Rafi because he's been at Deloitte, so is one of our alumni who's had a very successful career outside of government, but working with government through Deloitte. Barbara Grantham has ended up in Vancouver as the CEO of the General Hospital and the UBC Hospital Foundation. And we have alumni who've ended up in international positions. So Richard Bale is the Consular General for Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. So I will now pass this on to Stefan Schott to present.
Thank you, Jennifer. Can everyone see this? Yes. Good. So yeah, thanks for coming today to listen to our presentations on the different programs and options that we offer. I will talk about the Master of Arts in Sustainable Energy, which, sorry, just trying to advance this, which is quite an interdisciplinary approach because it's the first of its kind that is actually between engineering and public policy. We work very closely with the Faculty of Engineering, and students either specialize on the engineering side and do an MASC or an MEng in sustainable energy, or a public policy degree, which is an MA in sustainable energy. We address contemporary challenges and especially the climate emergency that we are currently facing, where we look at current pressing issues in climate change, the role of youth and young scholars in this youth rebellion, speaking up that something has to be done, and that is really more in their interest than in older generations that don't have to bear the impacts of this as much. So we try to, it's a very good opportunity for young leaders to get educated and make a difference in government and industry. We deal with issues such as just energy transitioning, flattening the climate curve, while looking at new technologies and stimulating growth especially under the current situation of building back better under the COVID pandemic. Renewable energy technologies are becoming increasingly competitive and will play an increasing role in this. So it's very important for us to actually look at a closer look at technology solutions and integrate them with economic and policy solutions as well. So solar panels, as you know, have dropped by 84% since 2010, when we actually started the program about 10 years ago. It's a fairly young program. Onshore and offshore wind have dropped by 50%. Storage solutions are increasingly dropping in cost and are becoming much more relevant. And so I already talked a little bit about the history of this program. We were founded in 2010, and to leverage really Carleton's university strength in public policy, we are the first and oldest public school, policy school in the country, and we have a very strong engineering faculty which is recognized for their research in a lot of different technology areas. It was recognized also back then by the Ontario government that energy policy is increasingly preoccupying governments, industry, and communities in Canada, but also, of course, globally. A transformation of our energy systems are very essential, and so are links between engineering and policy to actually have an impact on government and changes. And here we are in a unique position of really combining technological issues with politics and economics, which we can both offer in the School of Public Policy and Administration. Sorry, trying to, yeah, so the prerequisites for our program. Like Jennifer said, we're looking for strong students with at least a B+ average out of their last 2 years or 10 credits in their undergraduate. And so the prerequisites are a course in political science, Canadian political institutions, economics, introduction to micro and macroeconomics, and we also require working knowledge of high school algebra. Those prereqs are a little bit different. We require a B- average on those, not a B+, so it's a bit more lenient perhaps. But of course, this is important to have done this before you come. If you don't have these prerequisites, we do allow you to do those in your first year or in the summer before you come. And there are possibilities, and I can advise you further if you have questions about that. So our core courses, typically, these core courses are basically shared between engineers and policy students. You would be taking one semester course in sustainable energy engineering for public policy students to prepare you with the technological literature, with some of the engineering terms, definitions. So, and this is a course just for policy students. So you don't have to share this with engineering students so that you don't get, intimidated by their knowledge. We do the same for the engineering students. We have a sustainable energy policy for engineering students. We do the same, so to prepare cohorts to work together. Then we have a 0.5 credit course, a 1 semester course in energy evaluation and assessment tools that I typically teach in this program. And that will prepare you for the second year in the full 2-semester course of an applied interdisciplinary project where you apply everything that you learned in the program. You also, what is a bit unique in our program is that you have to show that you took 10 sustainable energy speaker series seminars that we organize. And that's something that you will have to show at the end that you've participated, and we will take, of course, attendance in those. Additional requirements here for the policy students are a 0.5 credit course in energy economics that I am teaching typically as well. 0.5 credit in sustainable energy policy, a 0.5 credit in policy analysis, a practical art of change. That's a course where you will interact with the public policy students that do a master's in public policy and administration typically, so that you also mix with that cohort. And then we have, you have to take 3 field courses or electives from a number of courses that we typically offer. Here are 6 of them that we offer at least every 2 years. So if you come to this program, which is typically a 4-semester program, you will have a chance to take those courses. Co-op option, again, very popular. We have very high placement rates as well. Typically, students are eligible for co-op after they've completed their core courses in the first year. So not the second year applied project. If you have to take prerequisites, then we make exceptions because you couldn't take certain core courses in the first year. Here, just a bit of information about our sustainable energy seminars. And by the way, we have an upcoming one this Thursday at 5:40. If you're interested, let me know, and I will give you all the information of how to access this Zoom and a sustainable energy seminar to get an idea of the students, the questions that are being asked, and the format of those. This will be Jim Wren from talking about municipalities, the Green Municipal Fund and sustainable energy. We just had Dr. Peter Zantrizos talking more about the technological side of waste management. Field trips are also a very popular part of our program. Here are some pictures of past field trips in 2013 and 2012. We went to Wolf Island Wind Farm, also talked to the wind power resistant movement as well there. We just did a trip before COVID-19. This 2020 picture is not during COVID. I just want to point that out. To Brookfield Renewable just before the lockdown. And also I organized a few years ago a trip to a biogas facility in Richmond, Ontario, just half an hour from Carleton University, which shows us really like how sustainable energy is working in practice and what farmers are doing and how the technology plays is combined with the business model and the policies. We do have research opportunities. Our students, we tend to like to hire them for our research projects in, here's Alexandra Mallet and Jessica Lees, one of our students, at work in the Northwest Territories on a remote sustainable energy solution for remote communities. Our students also every year present at the Emerging Perspectives Graduate Student Conference that our Faculty of Public Affairs is organizing. And I also hire students both from actually is from the MAPA program and the Sustainable Energy Policy program on topics like energy and food security in the Arctic. Here on the left, you see two of our students you can see some wind turbines and solar panels for actually a greenhouse that was just built in a very high Arctic. Yeah, so, and just to summarize, application deadlines for our program are February 1st, 2021 to guarantee good funding packages. Our final deadline is actually quite late, till July 15th. So if you're not quite sure you want to apply, but in March, April, you think, oh, you know what, I now have an interest in this program. It's not too late, although we can't guarantee good funding. It depends what is available at that point. We have a later deadline because the engineers have a significantly later deadline, and we need to coordinate with them. And of course, there is financial aid available through SSHRC, OGS, other agencies, and also for students from developing countries under the Global Sustainable Electricity Partnership. That's it. If you have questions, we will give you the email again at the end. Feel free to ask us at any time. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, let me thank the students who've really tuned in. This is really an important time. And I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to think about, both with your heart and with your head, where you see yourself 5 years from now and what type of program will get you there. And here at the School of Public Policy and Administration, fortunately, you have a portfolio of programs that, regardless of your interests, will, I think, position you to do more, working in policy, working to make change, working to serve Canadian society. Many of the policy areas, though, say in the environment, education, human rights, health, poverty relief, even arts or international development, one of the common elements there is that it's really the nonprofit sector that is at the forefront of many of the initiatives taking place, social entrepreneurship. And what we became aware of was that that really the United States is at 150 graduate programs designed to prepare people to work in the nonprofit or philanthropic sector on those areas. Canada had nothing. So it was about 9 years ago that the School of Public Policy and Administration said there's a mission here for us to prepare people to work on these substantive issues, but through the nonprofit sector. So in 2013, we introduced the Master of Philanthropy and Nonprofit Leadership. Because it was the only one in Canada, it was designed to have national reach. So from the get-go, it combined both in-class, condensed courses, and online instruction. So we have students this year, for example, coming in from Halifax to Vancouver, and people in Ottawa as well, lots in Winnipeg, lots in Alberta. They come half directly out of undergraduate programs, and half are already working in or with the nonprofit sector. So we find that this is a really rich group of about 25 people from both fresh out of university, those who are working. It really becomes a very healthy learning environment for all concerned. And so this is, here I'll give you a sense of what the program involves. In terms of the curriculum, we try to think of what will position people well working in organizations in the nonprofit sector. First of all, they need to learn how to run organizations, oversee. And here, so we have courses on governance, how to manage boards, how to see your own leadership abilities, how to manage organizations, both associations and nonprofit organizations. Also, leaders need to know how to measure. What are they doing? What are the needs? How do they know what effects they're having? Hence, we've got courses on research methods, evaluation, as well as communication courses on social media and also decision-making processes like decision grant-making, strategic grant-making. Finding the resources is also important. So we have 2 courses on fundraising, finance for nonprofits, impact investing, as well as understanding the overall environment in which the nonprofit sector is working. What are the laws? What are the policy initiatives? What does the Canada Revenue Agency do, etc.? So here we give you that overview as well. The course the program is designed, it's 6.5 credits, 7 core courses that are required of all students. And then there's a capstone project at the end where students working in groups of 3 will be working with an organization on a defined problem that that organization needs help with. And then there are 4 electives. And here you can see that there are an arrangement of panel courses that will provide students with some scope as to where they would like to specialize, or they could take courses as well at the School of Public Policy and Administration. In terms of the layout, this program actually starts in the summer with the 2 core courses being taught 5001, 5002. Typically, these were offered in intensive 2-week modules. So the students would come from across Canada to Ottawa for 2 weeks. Of course, with COVID last year, this was now converted online. But then you can see the shaded courses are the core courses that are spaced out in the fall, winter, and then the following summer. Again, the following summer is designed to bring people back into Ottawa in that condensed 2-week period. But we expect this year, again, that summer will again be online, but we're still waiting for the university to hear. But that's the layout, and you can see that the electives are coming along each of those terms as well. And I've only given you a sample of them there. We have 5 dedicated faculty at the School of Public Policy and Administration who teach in the program, as well as a host of contract instructors who are working professionals or themselves are students or are working in government. As well, we have some adjunct professors who are there in an advisory capacity, both in law and in data management. So here we have really a wonderful coterie of people to instruct. We have an advisory council, which again tries to keep the program relevant, connected to the sector. So we have people who are working in foundations, philanthropists, fundraising organizations, and people who are working also in government or with the financial sector. Finally, the students, and here are students that came into our program this year and a few from last year. Again, they are from across Canada. These are the ones that are primarily coming out of undergraduate programs, but they come from business, they come from communication, they come from theology, they come from science backgrounds, they come from political science, journalism, and actually one in music administration. So again, like the other programs, we are really quite wide in the types of backgrounds that we see as being relevant to the nonprofit sector and that can enable people to contribute to that sector, not losing what they bring into the program, but actually building on it. There's Anna Wreathman, and again, her name will be presented. Anna is really a great source of information. If you're interested in applying to the program, want to know some of the quirks about it, I'm also able to answer those questions, more than happy to speak to you. And part of the program is also serving the sector. And so we have a whole range of activities that normally we would be organizing in-house. With the arrival of COVID, though, we have not been able to have in-person activities. So what we've done is to pivot to provide now a knowledge mobilization website called Panel Perspectives. It's a month old, but here is there's the link. If you link onto it, here I can show you what it looks like. It's a newsletter that you can look at. It, whoops, there we go. It provides you with, there's like a Dear Ann Landers, Dear Abby, one of our professors answers questions from organizations that are facing problems. We have students contributing. Here, some students will speak on a video about what they want the nonprofit sector to be. We have a whole range of topics that are looking at COVID in the world, but again, this is designed to try to inform the sector, provide students with a vehicle that they can publish and present articles as well. But we see it as an initiative that's important as a university to take responsibility and serve the sector as well. It's Baltajolu, yeah, Prek Baltajolu.
Jill, yeah, the C throws me. I knew there's no, okay. You taught her, Callum, right? So I
know, I am really that old. And actually, interestingly enough, one of our alumni, Stefan, I should speak to you about this. Upender Tripathi got in touch with me over the weekend. He was the Minister for Sustainable Energy in India. And he's now the Director General of the Solar Panel Association, which is an international UN organization. So I'll mention him to you. But it's interesting how our programs are really interlinked.
Yeah, please put me in touch. That's very interesting. We have some ties to India already, and I know the university is having some interest, strategic interest in having closer relationships.
Thanks. I've just put up a table that just overviews some of the key things about each of the programs. I think most of these have been mentioned, and then I'll put up in a few minutes as we go through the questions, the slides. So first, don't forget to ask if you're interested. You can have questions for Stefan and Callum as well. Dana's asking about what fields have co-op positions been obtained in the past. The co-op positions come from across the federal sector. There's no doubt about that. I often mention to students, just watch all the postings. Don't say, oh, I'm interested in international affairs and I'm just going to look for, what is it, Global Canada? They change the acronyms all the time on me. I'm not just going to look at the one ministry. So the example is I had a student a couple of years ago who did a co-op position in agriculture in their international unit and found it very worthwhile. But our co-op positions, as I said, can be provincial, can be municipal, can be nonprofit. You can find your own co-op position and bring it to the co-op office and make that part of your academic experience. I showed in terms of the over the trajectories for recent graduates, I believe the infographic I showed you was for graduates in the last 5 years, for whom we have information. We encourage graduates to stay in contact. We like to hear from you, but not everybody does. But as I showed you, the majority end up in a government position, but there are still about 40% who end up in different sectors: nonprofit, education, health, career, professional development, sports in light of COVID. I'm not sure if maybe Stefan and Callum know something. I mean, we've all been working as faculty very hard to help students through the COVID time adjust to the online experience. We worked with the co-op office, making sure that co-op positions were still available for our students. And I know the co-op office has been working on that issue as well.
I might add to that, Jennifer, if I might.
Yes.
I did get involved myself with the co-op office this summer as I offered a research internship for one of our large-scale projects on food security in the Arctic. And we did hire a student through that program. There were, I think Alex did the same. So there are some other now opportunities to go more into the research direction if a co-op is not available. It was in the spring, we had some transition issues where some co-ops weren't available, but I think that has normalized now. But that's another option that we offered.
Okay.
Just separately, just to make clear, for the philanthropy program, philanthropy and nonprofit leadership, we don't have co-ops. Instead, we have internships, which are actually courses that count towards your program. And these internships now have pivoted. They're all online. There are several from British Columbia working with an environmental network. An alumnus who is now working for the United Nations major group on children and youth is looking for people to do online internship with the United Nations in communications. So here we have tried to provide that type of professional experience, particularly for the half of our students who don't have that much experience, but now rather than on site, we are doing it online.
Good to know. There's a question about bilingualism. I feel like everyone knows the answer. If you would like to work in the federal government, this is a key skill to have. You're asking if you're disadvantaged, not in our program, but we encourage you to find training in French. For example, some students take a undergraduate course in French while they're doing the MPPA. This will not count as credit towards the MPPA, but you're charged as a Carleton student. So that's, I think, a fairly cost-effective way to get some French training, but it is something to think about. We also have had students, this takes a bit of planning, so you have to start thinking about it almost before you arrive at Carleton, but we've had students regularly do an exchange at Sciences Po in Paris. And I mean, that's a great way to improve your French. So I'm happy to work with students on that as well. And these international exchanges, I think, Stefan and Callum, I don't know, you guys can say if they would work for your program. But we have had students successfully do this as well. COVID, of course, to all of our answers, COVID's put a twist, and we'll see what we can do. I am working with at least one student about doing a exchange for next year, although they want to go to Taiwan. So yes, do what you can for your French. We have some French colleagues who'd be happy to speak with you in French to help you, but it is not part of the MPPA curriculum. There's a question about when to take the prerequisites. We strongly encourage that students complete the prerequisites before they start the program. So if you are admitted with a conditional offer, we encourage you to do them over the summer before September, but we will still work with you to fit them into the program. What is the rate of being hired? I don't really have much information on that, except that I live in Ottawa, where a lot of our graduates, alumni are, and they all seem to be working. They all seem to have amazing careers. So it's, they all feel, everyone I talk to feel that the degrees they've gotten from the School of Public Policy have assisted them in their careers. Now there is funding. We're one of the public policy programs that does offer funding for our students. If you want to be considered for funding, it's the same as what Stefan said for the Sustainable Energy Program. Your application must be in by February 1st. If you miss that, you can apply up until, for our program, the middle of May. But we can't guarantee that there'd be any funding left after we deal with the first group of students. So there's a question about applications, how many typically apply to the program and how many students are typically accepted. For the MPPA, we have about, well, last year we had about 225 applications and we accept 60 each year. Stefan, there's a question for you on how common is, can you read it?
Yes, I already partially replied in the chat, but I'd like to talk a bit more about that. That's a very good question from Adam. We do have quite a few alumni from our program that had an engineering undergraduate and then decided to come and take the policy program for sustainable energy. It's actually quite typical also for mid-level career engineers that all of a sudden want to go more into management and more into policy, higher level decision making, and they realize that they lack the understanding of how policy works, how economic evaluation works, etc. So that is quite common. I can put you in touch with alumni if you're interested. And also, I think you had a question about the thesis option. I didn't go into that. We do have people that do a thesis on our end. It's not as common. Many of them decide to do a major research paper, but as opposed to the engineering side, you don't have to decide upfront who you want to work with, what lab you want to work with, or what if you want to take the thesis direction. You can first go through your courses and figure out who you would like to work with. You can already, of course, ask who has certain projects and is hiring there, but there's a bit more flexibility on that end. All right, over to you, Jennifer, if you want to answer the next question.
Yeah, sure. So Dana's asking about the co-op. Yes, they're paid, and they tend to be an essential source of students' funding through the program. The co-op office, you'll want to check the co-op office. They have detailed information, but they used to have average starting wage. I'm not going to say what it is because it changes, and I haven't looked for a couple of years. I will tell you, if you've done co-op in your undergrad, usually master students are paid more than undergraduate students in a co-op. So Minnie has a question. If you do not have the B+ for micro and macro, but you have the B+ for last year's courses, do you apply or do you have to retake? Yes, for the prerequisites. So we may admit you because your average over your last 2 years was quite high, and your first year courses aren't part of that average. But yes, you have to retake the economics courses or the political science to make sure that we have a B+ in that.
I think we skipped a question on part-time.
Oh, did I? Oh, well, I know I was calculating that. So the MPPA, oh yes, how long on average? So if you were doing it part-time, you're allowed to take 2 courses a semester. That's true for any program. And so with the MPPA, there's 14 courses that would take 7 semesters. You would have to do a bit of planning to make sure that you're taking the core courses when they're offered and the elective courses when they're offered. So I encourage anyone we admit part-time to discuss their plan for the 7 semesters or 8, but you're given a timeline of 10. So if something comes up one semester, you don't run out of time. Okay, I'm gonna have to get moving. There's a lot of questions here. Callum, you may not be able to see this. Could you outline the main differences in outcomes between the MPPA and the MPNL? You know both programs quite well.
I think outcomes. I think there's an overlap. For example, I know of graduates, Barbara Grantham, whom you mentioned, is working in the nonprofit sector, but she did her MPPA. I can think of an individual, Andre Scott, who did his MPNL, but is working for the Canada Revenue Agency on charities. So there's an overlap there. I think, though, primarily the students who come out of the MPPA program are explicitly gearing themselves for the nonprofit sector. That's where their internships are. They see themselves working in a foundation, or they see themselves working in an environmental organization. Sure enough, they need to know about policy, but not necessarily about bureaucracy. They need to know how to make a small organization run efficiently without necessarily being part of a larger structure. So I think there's just a different orientation, but there's also flexibility. Note that we say working in or with government or in or with the nonprofit sector. Some of our students are working in private organizations, and some of our MPPA students are working in banks. So there is a fluidity there. I think, remember what I said at the outset, heart and head. Think about what are you interested in? What are you good at? What do you want to become better at? And then think about what program will get you there. And it really is opening a pathway to a career, not to a pigeonhole. So I don't think that your future is determined by your graduate program. Rather, see your graduate program as really building on what you are interested in and preparing you in a general direction. I hope that helps.
I hope so. Cal, it was good for me, Callum, thanks. Callum, I don't know if you can see this question, but there's a student asking who has been out of university for almost 15 years, if you could speak to the prerequisites for mature students and those who have worked in the nonprofit sector. I will say for anyone in that situation, it is a case-by-case basis and to contact the graduate supervisor for the program. But Callum, do you want to speak about the MPNL?
Yes, because we find that many people that are, remember that other half, the half that are in service, Some of them have done an undergraduate degree, some have done graduate degrees, but they're 10 years old. And certainly one's undergraduate degree from 10 years ago is not necessarily representative of what they are doing now. So for people coming into the MP&L program, we also look at their professional backgrounds. Some of the students come in without an undergraduate degree, but have taken a few university courses. What we do is that we invite them to take perhaps other courses, perhaps it's our introductory courses, and if they do well in those, we can use those as the basis for admitting them to the program. So here we want to look for people that have already demonstrated ability and acumen and skill, whether in an academic context or also in the workplace. So it's not as if it is cookie cutter. We look to see where people have demonstrated potential, both to benefit from the program and to benefit the sector. And so people who don't have undergraduate degrees, at least there's a tradition within the MP&L program to see what else they can bring to the table and what else can we use to as a way of measuring their ability.
Right, thanks, Callum. There's a question for me for the MPPA. Out of the 60 students, how many are straight out of university? How many are mature students? I would say the majority are coming out of an undergraduate. They may have a year or two. I'd say, well, that's probably a significant majority. We do have students who are coming out of another master's. We've had people out of a doctorate. Actually, I've had quite a couple of those. We've also had people returning after 5 years. We used to have a lot more of 10, 15-year levels of work experience, but over time that's changed. Is work experience considered in the same way as with the other programs? Not really. The MP&L places more weight on work experience than the MPPA does, but we look at it, we're looking at your whole package, and your application does include a statement of intent where you can explain to me what's really interesting about you, and it does include your CV, so we'll look at that as well to see where you've had experience.
I'd like to add that
yes, go ahead.
Like for the Sustainable Energy Policy Program, work experience can be very important. So some people have had a degree 15 years ago. They didn't do so well, but then they have become leaders in their field in either sustainable energy or climate change or environmental policies. And we do weigh that quite heavily because it's important that we mix in our program experienced leaders that are already maybe a little older with younger students so that they can have very good, fruitful discussions and debates, so that we do take that, we weigh that quite heavily. If you are one of these students who are practitioners and who have some experience in the sector, it's very important for us.
Thank you, Stefan. I think this is the last question. We still have a few more minutes though, according to my clock. So if you have other questions, please write them in the chat, or I guess we could, I don't have that window open. Are there paid TARA positions and or other opportunities to gain volunteer? Yeah, there's a lot of things we could talk about. We're a graduate school. We're solely a graduate school, so we're not a master's program that has an undergraduate program. So we don't actually have a lot of TA positions to offer. We do have some, and that'll be part of the offer of admission if one's made, and it would be part of your, we'd consider it as part of your funding offer as well. There are paid RA positions in our school. There's very few of those that are offered as part of your admission. I'm trying to increase that, but as Stefan mentioned, faculty are hiring RAs. So that is an issue of talking to your professors if you're interested in a particular area, see what they're doing, to watch your emails for opportunities would be the two key ways to look into getting an RA.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to say, Stefan?
Quick thing, yes. And if you get a TA, you can also, we can turn it into an RA. I always have 2 positions every year. and I hire both sustainable energy policy students and MPPA students. So there's also a possibility if you get offered a TA that this can actually be turned into a research assistant position instead, and maybe point that out when you apply that you have a strong interest in some areas so that we can know who would be suitable for those.
That's good advice, Stefan. Other opportunities to gain experience. I think I'm going to forget things. One thing we do, we have a case study competition that students compete in. This has now become a course, but students do have to, is audition, try out the right word? And to be accepted, tryout maybe would be the right word for the team. And that would provide some substantial policy analysis experience, as well as the people who are judging that case competition, because it's for all policy schools across Canada, are very high level in the policy field. I'm sure I'm running out of things. We talked about international exchange.
School won last year.
Yes, we did
national champion. So yeah, 18.
Yeah, they did a great job.
There's another question here though about NIPSIA.
Yep.
That we might want to answer in the last minutes.
Is there a relationship? So yes, is there a relationship between NIPSIA and MPPA? Well, yes, we're on the same floor. I have approved any elective that NIPSIA offers can count towards an elective in the MPPA. You do have to get permission from NIPSIA to take the course though. But you do have my permission to take courses from them. Yes, you're pursuing many of the same co-op opportunities. So that would depend on exactly what the co-op is looking for. But yes, there's definitely MPPA students who get co-op positions over in GAC, Government Canada.
Foreign Affairs.
Global Affairs.
Thank you, Global Affairs Canada. I keep forgetting what it is.
I want to add to that too that I, for example, currently are co-supervising a student in NIPSIA with a faculty member from NIPSIA for a major research project, and vice versa. That can happen too. You want to do a major research paper, maybe with someone from NIPSIA, then we would co-supervise it on our end, and so that is the possibility to interact more with their department.
Okay, Callum and Stefan, I feel like there's a lot of experience things that I didn't mention. I mentioned the case study, there's RAs, there's major research papers, there's the student-run journals. Thank you, Benjamin. Well, we'll just go with the acronyms right now. CPOPP and ICEMA are both student journals where students submit work that they've done for credit. Faculty usually either encourage or nominate. So you can watch for that as well.
Yeah, and to add to that we also have an strong alumni network for over 15 years now called Signals, where we stay in touch with people in the sustainability and energy, environmental field, lots of strong alumni helping us to get people co-op placements and jobs. And also we organize a banquet every year. And so does MAPA, also has a
we have a banquet.
But the School of Public Policy and Administration, before experiential learning was a buzz phrase, built it into the courses from the get-go. So every course has guest speakers, every course has case studies, every course will have, or program will have something that really requires you to work with an organization on or simulated organization on a policy problem. That when you look at public policy, it's not a cookbook exercise. It requires you to have sure enough a background, but you need to apply it in realistic scenarios that are not all uniform or simply a problem set. And so we do try to bring that complexity, that ambiguity into our teaching, not to make the world complex, but to make the world realistic, or at least the classroom realistic. So yes, there are, now obviously our in-person events have to be put aside, but hence, as I said, we try to pivot to do more online things, whether through the internships or panel perspectives, at least in the case of the philanthropy program. But good question, that we're preparing you to work in the world, not just work in an ivory tower.
That's a nice way to maybe sum up our 3 different programs. There are definitely overlaps, as Callum said. MPPA students can take some sustainable energy, not all, some panel courses as well. So you can make these decisions. Again, I'll say this on behalf of all 3 graduate supervisors. We are around on email, virtually, for conversations about about the programs that we're supervising. I believe, according to my clock, we're at 1 p.m. Are there any other questions? I want to thank everyone for coming today. We're in a very interesting place in the world right now, and it's been an exciting, perhaps maybe stressful time. But we've really been impressed with our students this year. And how they've switched into this new environment. In fact, we're impressed with ourselves too. And I'm quite impressed with the things that my colleagues have been able to put together for online courses. So there are many questions up in the air about COVID, and I'm also happy to talk with you about those. So thanks to everyone.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.